Gamers that walk the not-so-silent halls of the USG Ishimura in the original Dead Space know what kind of fear and suspense to expect from EA's horror franchise. Along with the grotesque monsters and quick scares came a mysterious story that left a whole lot more to be discovered. Isaac Clarke's story had its moment in the spotlight, but what of the colony of Aegea 7? What really happened before the USG Killian arrived on the scene? That's what Dead Space Extraction is all about.
We have more patients in the hallway. I'm gonna check on them.
Sure, I'll be here.
Extraction can be best described as an on-rails light gun shooter, but after blasting through the 8 hours and 10 missions of story mode, I can tell you firsthand that the game is as much about the characters and Dead Space story as it is about the action itself. EA's newly formed Visceral Studios, along with Eurocom, has created a game that never really has you too attached to one solid protagonist, instead following the story of multiple colony survivors as they attempt to first flee to the Ishimura and then eventually plan an escape attempt from there. And that's really what's so great about Extraction, it's that there's no main character and the endpoint's already set. The Ishimura is going to fall, Isaac's going to arrive, and Dead Space is going to carry out, so in this game you're actually playing as a group of people that are basically on a death march. It's a great way to set the game up because it's totally unsettling. The guy you're playing as, yeah, he could get snatched up at any minute, you just never know. As far as the world itself, all the familiar locales are there. So you've got the planet's surface, it's a nice reimagining of what was seen in the original comics, and the Ishimura itself is exactly how you're going to see it on 360 as far as layout. The story kind of unfolds in the same way, and it actually brings in a lot of fan service too, since you're going to be rooting through all the Ishimura areas, but you're also checking out audio logs, video logs, text logs, and of course you're still dealing with the necromorphs, which are completely brutal in this game. One downside of the on-rails feel, though, you can't stop and just look around, and the fact that you're not going at your own pace also means that it's not quite as scary since it's not so immersive.
Help! Help! It's the elevator! Go! Go! This is the only way through. Get your...
This may not be the third-person experience you might expect from Dead Space, but when it comes to combat, Extraction is at the top of the on-rails shooter pile on Wii. There are plenty of weapons in the game, each with their own secondary fire that makes up some great versatility while playing. Each character in the game can only hold 3 weapons at a time though, so outside of your rivet gun, which is basically like a new pistol, you have to decide what guns you're going to keep and which ones you're really going to use based on the upgrades you pick up. There's no workbench this time either, so basically you just pick up items and they go to the right gun automatically. It's not as deep as something like the workbench in the original Dead Space, but it fits with the entire scheme of the game. Dead Space Extraction is about bringing the same elements from the Dead Space world and putting them into a shooter mechanic. Weapons feel great overall, but the flamer itself is actually a little bit underpowered. On the flip side though, you've got weapons like the Ripper, which is seen here. I fire the saw blade out, and then using Wii IR and also a little bit of depth with my hands, I can actually push it forward, backwards, and slice off limbs at will. Really cool. The combat itself is still centered around the strategic dismemberment mechanic, and that's also a blast. Precise shots can knock off heads, arms, legs, and when you add in stasis into the mix, you can actually have the potential for some amazingly cinematic kills. Telekinesis is also used constantly for not only grabbing items, but also tossing explosive barrels or catching enemy fire and then throwing it right back at them. There's truly nothing more satisfying than grabbing an item box with TK and then firing it at a necromorph, dismembering the enemy and unlocking the box in one stylistic move. Classic. I mentioned there's a lot of story in the game, but for those that want more action, 10 challenge modes await, and they're really tough. You won't get online leaderboards, which is a shame, but both single player and challenge mode both allow for co-op, and it's good fun. There are also multiple levels of difficulty which range from casual to simply insane, though in general I wish the game had more close-up encounters with enemies, which would allow for not only more scares, but also tighter combat situations. Oh, and the little additions like building barricades, platforming in zero-G, using the glow sticks to explore the world, they're all really nice touches, and they both add to the gameplay variety and also the immersion factor. I mean, it is still supposed to be a Dead Space game. If you're more into checking out Dead Space lore, the entire motion comic series is also included in the Unlockables section. Though honestly, I've got to say they're a little low budget and definitely amateurish in feel. Still, the story is there for those that want a little something extra, and it's just a free reward for all the time you spent playing the main game. EA has delivered both a great mix of story and gameplay in Wii's Dead Space, and really brought it all together in a package that, while not perfect, hits the stride it sets out to hit. Gameplay can be a bit more up close and gritty, and the scares never really come all that big. But for those looking for a mix of both entertaining shooter action and a chilling, well-developed origin tale, Extraction definitely delivers. It's visually impressive, it's got the polish and the chilling atmosphere I'd expect from the Dead Space series, and it's also the best light gun shooter on the system to date. Grab a friend and go blast some necromorphs. For my full written review as well as more screenshots and video, check out IGN.com.